Hey guys, welcome to Cigar Church, where our passion for cigars and our love for Jesus come together. And we are sitting here in Burned by Rocky Patel in Oklahoma City. And as always, we've got Dan and Steve and myself, Clay. But today we've got a special guest. This guy right here is JJ The CPA. And if you don't know who this is, you're missing out, man. You've got a great YouTube channel, got a great social media presence, and just absolutely love what you do. And normally you're a little bit out of character today. Normally we get to see you in an amazing suit, and you got an affinity for plaid.
Yes, I do.
But today you got something cool on. You want to show everybody what you got?
Absolutely. So I got to show this off because when I
go for it.
I got right online and I got this. But check this out. This is the Cigar Church
Hawaiian shirt.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cruise shirt, Hawaiian
shirt. And I did get a T-shirt, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear this. And then my wife was like, well, you got to go with the white pants.
Absolutely. The beautiful
plaid was not going to go.
You're killing it. But we've got a surprise for you today. Shay, do you mind bringing those up here real quick? We figured if you were going to be on here in your Cigar shirt, your Cigar Church shirt, we were going to do our best to be JJ The CPA. So we've got our plaid sport coats. So if you would, Shay, come on.
Goodness.
Yeah, don't trip over the cables there.
Oh my goodness.
All right, the white one's for Dan.
Yeah.
The dark blue is for Steve.
Oh, you might.
And so, no, you don't get one. You're the Cigar Church guys. We're the
stand up.
Yeah, we're the JJ The CPA today.
My goodness. Well,
we just want to carry that legacy.
now I'm definitely feeling up your dress. But I haven't got the cigar.
Got the sport coat on with our shorts.
Got the pocket square.
Got the pocket
well,
square.
looking very good. So
we stepped it up for you. We stepped it up for you.
I love it. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna sit here and feel really weird in our shorts and our sport coats. But yeah, so I mean, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why in the world would a cigar show have a CPA on?
Well, I'll tell you what, I love what you're doing here. It's a real mission.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always loved about Jesus and his teachings is that he meets you where you are.
Yes.
And I went to Abilene Christian University, grew up in the church, gone to several kinds of churches over time. But, Jesus didn't hang out typically where we would all think he would hang out, which is the shiny places. Not to say having cigars isn't shiny, right?
Oh, it is. It is.
But at the same time, what I love is that you're making people think, right?
Yes.
You're making them think like, this isn't necessarily what I would normally see if we're talking about God and Jesus and church and the way, and it just opens up a conversation anytime we're in a cigar lounge.
Man, absolutely.
Right? You just start chatting.
Absolutely.
And so I think you're welcoming wonderful conversations, and so that's really what attracted me to this. So on my channel, unfortunately, I really don't get into politics or don't get on the right or the left, and I try and just kind of stay on point with taxes. But I'm going to be honest with you, Clay. I've been kind of questioning that myself.
Really?
And so this is a big step for me, to be honest with you.
Good.
When I promoted you guys a couple of weeks ago, for lack of a better word, showing the shirt and all that, it felt like a little bit of a risk. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Sure it is. Oh, and that's,
social media and how that works. And, I just told my wife, I said, it's just time to just start being who I actually am. Not saying that I'm not, but don't necessarily hide who you are. Don't hide your light. So you guys have encouraged me.
What's amazing, and thank you so much for that. That means the world to us. I mean, that's the point in why we do this, is we want to encourage people to, whatever industry they're in, we want them to be able to feel like they can do some level of ministry. And that's, we've talked about it 100 times. It's not that we want anybody to have it shoved down their throat, but we live in a world that we just want people to know that there are Christians out there that are normal. They're not weirdos. They're not whatever. And they have something to offer that's not just our faith. Your faith affects your ability to have integrity in what you do, and gives you purpose there. And the world needs to know that. And it's not that you're rubbing in their face, you got to be a believer to watch my channel, whatever.
Like we were talking about the other day, I did that video. Well, what do I want to title it? Do I want to put, can you find Jesus in a cigar lounge? Do I want to put Jesus in the title? And I was like, that's who we are.
That's who we are. And to be authentic with who we are, we need to be open with that. So we're going to talk about legacy today. We're going to talk about what it's like to leave a legacy in that industry, in the cigar industry. But before we jump into it, okay, so today for our cigars that we're smoking, obviously we don't have one in our hands yet, but I got something for us that I want us to be able to enjoy here. This is the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation that J.C. Newman and Arturo Fuente being one of my favorite brands, that they do together every year. I think they've been doing it. The foundation has been around since 2001. I don't think they've been doing the cigar since then. I think they started in 2011. This is the 2019 set, so it is from 5 years ago. And they put it out every year. It's $100 for 2 cigars, which seems like an awful lot of money for 2 cigars. But $50 of that actually pays for the cigars, so they're $25 cigars. And then $50 of it goes to the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, which was started in the Dominican Republic, so that they could raise the level of living in the Dominican, bring education, bring some reform to, just all kinds of stuff. So they've done a great job over the years raising money. One thing that I love about this charity is that when you donate to them, every single dollar that you donate, outside of buying these, only $50 of it, of the 100, go to the foundation. But if you were to give $100 on their website, give, $1 million on their website, every single dollar goes directly to the foundation. There's no overhead costs. They cover everything through the cigar companies, so that they can give every single penny to it. And so what I want to do today, like I say, we're going to be talking about legacy today. These to me are legacy cigars. Both J.C. Newman, I'm going to let you pick. Do you want the Opus or the Julius?
Thank you, sir.
We preach.
What would you prefer?
I've had them both, so whichever one you want.
I'm going to have the Opus.
Take the Opus. I'll take the Julius Caesar. Yep.
I've got the Opus over on our side.
Absolutely, and so that puts Steve with the Julius there. So as we're cutting and lighting these cigars, let's just talk about what it means for a cigar company first to have legacy in the industry. In preparing for this episode, Steve actually asked me, well, what cigar companies do you think are legacy companies? And I answered initially with the idea of groups like Fuente and Padron and Davidoff that have been around since day one. Don't cut your finger, man. We will leave that in the video.
Yeah, that would go viral. Yeah.
But so what does it mean for a cigar company to have a legacy? What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
For me, you think about the Arturo Fuente, the J.C. Newmans, the Padrones. There's several companies out there that you look at and say these are the companies.
Yeah.
I think a lot. You think quality.
Yeah.
First and foremost, they've been in the business.
Long-term quality.
Yeah. Longevity, long-term quality. Yeah.
And for example, these charitable. They're the ones doing these charities.
Yeah.
Not that the smaller ones don't, but of course these are the ones that you see. They're at the forefront. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What else?
Well, I know with the Arturo Fuente family, this is going to sound terrible, but when my son turned 18, let me back it up. When he was 5, he said, "Dad, when can I have my first cigar?" I said, "Well, when you're 18, because at the time that was the age, right?"
Absolutely.
So when he turned
how old is your son right now?
He's 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but when he turned 18, I had already planned this, but I got him the anniversary edition of the cigar humidor box that the Carlos Arturo Fuente family went from one generation to the next. So it's the special generation. But my point is the generation to generation to generation that the next generation wants to follow it and keep the quality. And I feel like in that as an example, there's a family committed to it, right? Not just about the fame and the fortune, but it's the quality. And so it's that early generation. And when I think of legacy, the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know why, but I think of the movie 300, right?
Yeah.
But the flexing, right? The energy that just comes from the flexing.
When they're doing the,
But that energy is what pushes into the next generation. That I think creates a legacy of wanting to continue that. And anyway, so that's what I think is it's the quality and keeping that going for the pride of it, of their family.
Yeah, and how many years later are we talking? I mean, thousands of years later, whatever that was.
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah. The question that always comes to my mind then is if legacy is such generational, going back multiple generations. You talk about the Fuente family, you talk about Padron family. Those are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generations deep in rolling cigars, growing, the tobacco, all of that. can a upstart cigar company, you know, we've highlighted groups like Black Label Trading Company, we've looked at Drew Estate, and some of those, can a young cigar company have a legacy as well? What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I mean, Drew Estate is a great example because, you know, look at how many facings they have, you know, it's just an enormous list, and they have become a powerhouse in the cigar industry.
Yes, they have.
For sure.
Yes,
so, you know, it's one of those things that I feel like they have forged a legacy, you know, being young.
Yeah.
Because Drew Estate, it's a household name in the cigar world. You know,
Right.
If you talk to a cigar smoker who smoked it all, he knows what Drew Estate is.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the key thing to that is building that foundation and creating that foundation that the next generation, you know, Jonathan Drew is a very public guy. Very, you know, he's obvious when he's in the room. What's his next generation, or who the company gets handed down to? Maybe not his kid, or I don't know if he has kids, but you know, who's that next generation that's going to take it over, and then it becomes a big legacy instead of just something fresh. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think with these newer brands, I think what they're also bringing to the table is that I think for the younger generation, right?
Yeah.
Is they're introducing also the type of lifestyle that goes along with it. What do I mean by lifestyle? Relaxation, friendliness, openness. And in our society where our generation is mostly on their phone, the younger one, right? And when they're looking on the phone, they think, well, everybody agrees with me because the algorithm only shows me what agrees with me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's great about being in a cigar lounge, is that it just opens conversation, kind of like Cigar Church, right?
Yeah.
So I think these younger brands are bringing that to the table.
And they're a little bit of a disruption to the old, you know, you've got, whether you call them legacy brands or old man brands or whatever. My first cigar was a H. Upman. You look at H. Upman, you look at Punch, you look at Monte Cristo, and all those that probably there for a while thought, oh, we got this industry locked down. And then somebody like Drew Estate comes in, or somebody like, you know, Steve Saka with Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust, or Black Label, or whoever.
And they'll push them.
Oh yeah, you know, and the whole thing is challenged. The whole industry is challenged by that in a good way. You know, it's that rising tide, you know, raises all ships. You know, it pushes Fuente, it pushes Padron to come out with something even better. And that's a legacy in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, enjoying the cigar so far, guys?
Oh yeah.
Gosh. Okay, so smooth. So I don't know about you, JJ. I know these guys. I know myself. I don't own a cigar company. I don't grow my own tobacco.
Right.
I don't roll my own tobacco. I trust that when I smoke a cigar, the company that made it's going to make me a good cigar. How can I leave a legacy? How can you leave a legacy in your everyday life, or even in the cigar lounge? What does it look like for you to have legacy in your life?
Well, I'm going to say, you know, just throw it out there. You probably don't know, but so I grew up not knowing who I was, and what I mean by that is that my mom kidnapped me from my family.
Oh wow!
So I grew up a missing child. And,
Okay.
We grew up under an assumed name. We were in hiding, and when I say in hiding, I mean like we weren't underground, but nobody knew who I was or my real name. I didn't.
How old were you when that happened?
5.
Okay, so did you? You obviously knew that this was out of the ordinary. This was different.
Oh yeah, I've gone to a lot of counseling.
Oh, I bet.
You know,
I bet.
Thank goodness Jesus has gone to every one of those circumstances and healed it and removed me, and He has taken my place in all of those. But more to say, when I was growing up, knowing that I was somebody else than what was being called upon in school or in class or my friends, and then my mom had remarried, and my brothers didn't even know that, you know, what was going on, that we had a name that wasn't real. So and
all along you knew that. You knew,
like you remember. I knew my first name, which is Joshua. I didn't know my last name. But in high school, it was a lot of physical and mental abuse. I was removed from the home 3 times and became a ward of the state, had a guardian ad litem. And so all really to say that it was really Jesus, and somehow, right, just having that knowledge that Jesus was out there and turning to the Bible even as probably way too young that you would think somebody's actually reading the Bible. But here's what I'm talking about, legacy. When I went off to college, so I went to York College, Christian school in Nebraska.
Okay.
And when I arrived, they said, well, your name is not this, right? Because clearly it's not matching the records that we have. And I said, well, what is my name?
Oh, wow.
And they said, well, we're showing this. And I was like, oh. So they went and got my birth certificate from California.
Wow.
So that's when I knew my name. So I'm 17 and a half. Without going through the whole story, my guardian ad litem arranged for me to skip my senior year of high school, get out of the state. And I went on a baseball scholarship to this small little college. But it really came down to this, and this is where it gets into legacy. So I'm sitting down at 17 and a half. I'm sitting with this counselor, and she says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and define who Joshua Jenson is. And I'm like, how do I spell my last name at the time, right?
Wow.
So we spent that year, my freshman year of college, turning into when I was 18. And I remember going in the cornfields, and I felt like a transformation of coming into who I wanted to be. And it was laying this out. But part of what I was laying out is, what do I want my kids to know me as? Not just a name, but what I stood for. My grandfather, I didn't grow up around him. In fact, just a minor asterisk, he was the only family member that knew where we were. My mom had really convinced him of this story and this dialogue. So he did know where we were, but I mean, he was not going to let his daughters and his daughter and his grandson be known to the rest of the group, right? Even though I'm a missing child, my mom would have been arrested, right? I'll just say this, I did get to see him once a year for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And his words really is what breathed into me in terms of what kind of life I wanted to have, right? And he didn't tell me what kind of life. It was just listening to his life. And we never came up with the discussion of what my last name is or any of that. You're not thinking about that. But that's like Jesus, right? I mean, you go back to the earliest times, and what's the legacy of Jesus? It's acts, right? It's his words and how they breathe and how we then implement that into us. And so what's wonderful, my grandfather being a CPA, certified public accountant, his oldest son, I had learned later, was one. So in determining who I wanted to be, I kind of gravitated towards at least something I knew. Becoming a CPA. I never dreamed my son would want to be a CPA. I don't know why, but he was destined for the MLB. Right? So he hung up a D1 career as a 6'5" lefty pitcher.
Oh my gosh.
To come and work with me, and he was on his way to becoming a CPA. And so what I love is I'm able to take the words that my grandfather told me over the years, and I find myself literally every day saying, your great-grandfather would say this, and then here's how I implemented it. And so here's the part of legacy, is taking things that were breathed into you, mixing it with whatever you know, to then pass that on. And so when I was younger, I would probably say I thought legacy was the watch, the car, the shoes, what money I would leave behind. And it really is for me now not about that, really. It's more about what kind of, as I talk about Group 300, what kind of flex and power is the wrong word, but what kind of energy or the aura, if you will, character, can go into not just the next generation of your family, but into those. And so I really just want to have a legacy that some things that I had said or had done is something that somebody can put into their life, kind of mix it, to then pass it along, so to speak. And so that does mean I don't care about leaving any money away for my kids, right? I'm spending it all.
Spend it all.
This legacy isn't about me leaving a car for you.
Well, the truth is, it's great when parents or in-laws or whatever leave money for them, but what really matters is that legacy that allows, that equips that child to be able to make their own, because that money that's made is a lot more meaningful than the money that's received for free. And not that that's not good, man, if you want to leave, your relatives an inheritance, wonderful. But leave them more than that. Leave them more than that. And that's all. And JJ, I didn't know that whole story. That's amazing, man.
Thank you.
And there's just, to me, there's so much that I just want to unpack out of that and dig into, and maybe we'll do that privately.
Maybe episode 2.
Maybe another episode, maybe another 3 or 4 episodes. But what I love about what you're seeing there is that you had this opportunity, and it's one of those things where in Scripture we see that God is working out all things for the good for those who love Him. Nobody would have ever wanted to be in the situation of being a missing child, on the back of a milk jug, whatever. But God worked that out for your good, where you had this beautiful blessing that most people don't ever, not at 18, not even at 80, will sit back and go, well, who do I want to be? What choices am I going to make right now that will determine who I am, not just today, but 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now, so that my children that weren't even born to you, you probably didn't even have a spouse picked out yet to have those kids with, and you have this opportunity that came out of a very bad situation, but you were afforded an opportunity to define some really big things. And to me, that's the key of legacy, right? And I love that you're recognizing that and bringing that into this conversation. Is oftentimes we think about legacy and it's this push forward, but it's really let's figure out the here and now and get things right now, so that there's that right foundation to build on, so that when I do hand it off to my kids, or when when even if I don't have kids, if somebody's looking at me going, I want to be like him, or I want to know what he's got that I don't have, in his character and all that foundation's laid when the attention, when the YouTube channel hits 100,000 subscribers, and you're right there. So if you haven't subscribed to JJ, get him over that 100,000 mark.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
But it's how do I deal with my own pride?
Yeah.
How do I deal with the ego that comes from some of that? And when you've laid that foundation, when you're nobody, literally without a last name, and that character's established, not set in stone, but established in that moment as you're building up, man, that's a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I hate that you had to go through all that, but I love that you were able to capitalize on it and make a name for yourself.
well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And with that, it was this mindset of, if God is for me, who's against me? I can accomplish all things. And but I will say, when I hit 35, I had a real breakdown. I had to hit a real depression. I was hospitalized over it. And, my point is that, I think, not that God did that, but it was prideful. It was about me. It was look at me and look at what I've done. And the reason 35 is that I had created this book, this vision, how much money and what a car is going to drive and all the things, right? And I had done it. So look at me. Look at what I did, right? Going to church, giving money. Look how much money I gave. Going on this mission trip. We started this, right? And I think, it's like you got to be broke, right? To amend, because then what happens? You're stronger for it. And since then, it's been different. But it took me about 3 years to really get through that time. And but God brings us through it.
He does. He does. And it's just been awesome to get. We've only known each other for about a month now, month and a half. We met at Smoke, Oklahoma. Right. And I've been stalking you online a little bit.
Okay,
going back and watching some old episodes, and it's just been cool to see. And now knowing the whole story, I mean, it's unbelievable to see what God's doing.
Thank you.
That's great. Still enjoying the cigars. How's that Julius Caesar doing for you over there?
So the first one I ever had. I like it.
Yeah.
For Maduro, it's kind of creamy, earthy.
Definitely. You guys on the Opus X's? What do you think?
It's an Opus X.
It's an Opus, Eye of the Shark,
It's Opus X is definitely one of my top 10, which we're going to be hitting in an episode pretty soon. We're going to be talking about our top 10, which, by the way, is not easy. But the Opus X is just the Opus X. I don't think there's a cigar quite like it.
That's wonderful.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm on Cigar Church, right? And it's like heavens have opened up right now. But I mean, this is got to be one of the smoothest cigars that I'm smoking right now. So thank you.
What are some of your favorite cigars?
Well,
first of all, what got you into cigars?
Well, I tell you, it was a part of that image. And there was a movie that had come out when I was leaving home, so to speak, and it had a bad guy in it, but it was Gordon Gekko, movie Wall Street. A lot of people are familiar with it. But anyways, that character in there, I didn't think he was a good character, but I liked the way he dressed and his lifestyle, the way he made money and the way he talked. And I'm going to tell you, I was a junior Gordon Gekko in terms of the swagger and but he smoked Davidoff cigars.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
So to me, when I'm putting down, there's literally in my vision book, like, okay, well, you smoke Davidoff cigars and you drink Johnny Walker Blue and those kind of things just going along with the image. But it was probably more that. It was this is what you do when you're successful.
When you made it, you smoke a cigar, right?
Yeah, like
and I smoke it in my office, and nobody's gonna tell me I can't smoke in my office.
That's right.
That's hilarious.
That's right. How did you guys get into this?
So this is one of our funny stories on a few of our episodes. We always like to ask the guest, how they got in, and more times than not, it's the gas station cigar. You're 16 years old, 17 years old, and you're trying to sneak that cigar, and I think my first was a Swisher. It was terrible, but that's not my first cigar. So same story for me. Not Wall Street, but I mean that's a really mature story in my book. I remember as a kid, Spider-Man comics and old Kingpin. Sitting there, big old dude, got his nice suit on, and he's got that big cigar in his mouth. And I don't know, who knows what kind of cigar it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. And I thought, that dude's just cool, man. That's cool. Yeah. And I remember thinking as a kid, man, one of these days I'm going to smoke me a cigar. And it just over the years just carried into other things. And I've talked on a few episodes about some of those other things that influenced it. But, I think that was the first time I remember seeing it in one of those comics. Then you got, JJ, J. Jonah Jameson.
Yes. Yep.
And he's sitting there smoking a cigar. It's like all these cool guys, behind the scenes guys that got a cigar in their mouth.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter, not Lecter, Hannibal from 18. He's sitting there driving. He's always playing together. Just all the cool guys in the 80s had cigars in their mouth. And which is in Wall Street. I mean, it was in the 80s. And all that comes out. So So we're talking legacy. We're talking legacy with your CPA firm, and that came down from your grandfather. That at least that influence, and then into you, and you're on your channel. You're walking us through the succession between you and your son that you mentioned earlier. Gave up the potential even Major League Baseball career, right? At least doing well in D1, right? Which is tough enough to get into,
right?
And here, talk to me about the joy of that. I've got two boys. One of them's 22, so right around the same age, and it's such a joy to watch what your kids are doing, and as they're developing and forming those same things. How's that feel to see your son walk in your footsteps?
Well, I mean, first of all, as I indicated earlier, I didn't really ever give that to him as an option. I don't know why. I loved it, but I always talked about what I was doing. I talked about his great grandfather, both to my daughter, who's 27, and then him. But it was always about helping people. This is really what I love about being a CPA and in the tax world, is you're really helping people. You're bringing relief. I was in high school. You take that aptitude test, and it was I was either going to be a movie star or a preacher. So you become a CPA on YouTube, right? But with my son, I am just really honored that he's a part of it. And in October 13th of 21, I had a stroke.
Okay.
I was 117 pounds heavier than I am now. And, I was living fast. I mean, just in terms of, I don't mean like that, but there was a lot of success going on with the YouTube channel and travel. It was all good. Right? And, but anyways, it was right after that, about 3 weeks later, that my son decided to hang it up, because he said, Dad, if I play ball this spring, I'm not going to be able to work tax season with you, because he's working in the summers. So he said, I can see myself getting to the show, but then what is it after the show? I'm going to come back and I'm going to want to start a tax practice. The words he didn't add, that I don't know if he even thought of it at the age that he was thinking of it, was, but what if you're not around? Right? That can get me choked up. So the honor of that is wonderful. So different purpose in coming in the office, and really at that time as well, with the success of the channel and doing seminars and traveling the nation, and now having partnerships and getting paid just to be JJ the CPA and show up and encourage people. But I'm now also on a mission in honor of my grandfather, our family heritage, my son being to be the fourth generation. We have 75% of CPAs that are going to be retiring, including me, in the next 10 to 15 years. So we don't have an influx. We only brought in 18,000 new CPAs last year. So I'm also on kind of a grassroots mission to promote the industry and what it's about. But this industry is also broken because I think in helping people, and it's a kind of a trait in our industry as tax professionals, somehow we just take it on the chin, and we are an unhealthy, high divorce rate, me included. That we've worked ourselves to it's not attractive to the next generation. So I'm really going with this mindset of practice management. So back to my son, in doing succession, we're talking about, I want my son to not follow in all my footsteps.
That's beautiful.
In this succession.
Yeah, that's
so we're talking about it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I love that. I think all of us as men have those traits, those characteristics that we want our kids to pick up on. We want to be intentional about putting that in front of them so that they can follow. But then there's also those little things where, like, don't do what I did, don't make this mistake, and sometimes they've got to on their own to learn the lesson. But that's good. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, though. This is great. I love this idea of legacy and talking about handing that off. But one of the things that the four of us share in common, other than being dads and other than being men that love cigars, but we have influence. Every one of us, whether we realize it or not, whether we're quiet and sitting in the corner, pastor or CPA, we have influence over people around us. And one of those places that we all four share that influence is in the cigar lounge. So, at the lounge that we go to, that we met at, we've got an older gentleman named Bobby. Everybody knows Bobby, and he's got his chair in the corner. We joke that he's going to die in that chair. He's in his 80s, and his health is failing. And every time you walk in, you check to make sure Bobby's breathing, and all that kind of stuff. And everybody just kind of takes care of him. When he's gone, Bobby's going to be talked about for decades. As long as that cigar store's open, Bobby's going to be talked about. And there's guys, I could name off 4 or 5 other guys. A guy named Rick Green, who passed away a few years ago, that in a motorcycle accident, that just a wonderful veteran that had amazing conversations with him. His legacy is going to live on in that lounge. As long as there's people there still telling his story, his legacy is going to be there. How do we leave? I mean, it's one thing to leave a legacy with your family. That's expected. It's expected that with my boys, I want to leave a legacy with them. It's expected that in my industry, I want to leave a legacy. But how in the cigar world, in the cigar lounge, can we be intentional about leaving a legacy, not just for ourselves and our name, but a gospel legacy in the cigar lounge? How do we do that?
We had a party a little while ago, and if you haven't already guessed, I'm a very quiet person. When they talk about introverts, I'm not even on that scale. I'm like above the introvert scale. So I'm like somewhere in hermit versus, living in the bottom of the ocean kind of thing.
What are you going to do when you guys got a stadium that wants to watch you guys smoke?
This guy's going to sweat like crazy. That's
last night I was telling my wife when we were leaving, because she came with me, and I said, it's amazing because I've been a member at the lounge that we're in for 2 or 3 years now, and the people that I've met, because they kept coming in, and they knew me by name, and they were, shaking my hand, and we were, I knew them, and it's an amazing thing for me because I've never been particularly outgoing. I meet people and I can do that, but never been very social. And for me, understanding that's part of the legacy because I have to be able to get out there and share with people. And when people, now I know this person by name and we sit down and we start talking, I can impart in them, they're imparting in me, and that's it's different. It's to me, that's part of the legacy we can leave.
It's hard to leave a legacy when somebody's like, wasn't there a guy sitting over there that usually sits in that chair? What was his name? Nobody knows him, and it's not that
Bobby.
Bobby, everybody
gets away with it.
Because for years he was the loudest guy in the room, and telling the craziest stories in the room. And that's important. Is that sometimes we've got to get outside of ourselves.
We do,
so that we can connect with others. I think as we get into the scripture side of this, we're all commanded to go and make disciples, to tell of the story of Jesus and to interact with people. And part of that is sometimes we have to die to ourselves. And if some of us, that means we got to die to a sinful nature. We all have to die to our sinful nature, but part of it may be not that I give up this sin in my life, which is an important thing, but sometimes it's, I just don't like being around people, and I've got to kind of get past that and die to that part of myself so that I can pour into other people. And that's awesome that you've noticed that. And you're doing good. You're doing good.
Also leave a legacy of being the guy that we don't talk as much, but somebody that listens. A lot of people want somebody to talk to. They just want you to listen to them.
Be quick to listen and slow to speak, right? Yeah. You're looking right at me like, Clay, sometimes you need to shut up and let others speak, man. I hear it. I'm taking it in, man. I'm learning from you.
The two ears, one mouth. Principle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes my mouth gets way far ahead of my ears. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing when it does.
And you can lead the legacy in the conversation you have without knowing you're doing it. Just be genuine. Be yourself.
Yeah. One of the things, kind of to you and I probably share that in common is, but if I were to put in a word in the cigar lounge setting, it would be, JJ was always interested.
I love that. Yeah.
And that's what I love about the conversation. And I think the concept of first understand to then worry about being understood. So if you're trying to impart anything into anybody, if you better understand where they're coming from, and part of that is it can help you sell better, right? It can help you do all kinds of things. But one of the things that I love about being in the cigar lounge is how easy it is to have the conversations. And, you guys are affording this, whether you realize it or not, an opportunity for, even somebody like me that, before JJ the CPA and online, I would talk about this stuff a lot. And I'm sure many could have their own opinions and judgments on, well, then you're not genuine in this and that, and I'll let you provide all the judgments you want, other than to say this. I think God finally put me to a level where he's like, did you get enough attention, JJ? Do enough people know you? Right. You can be at an airport and people want to know you. But the way that the Lord, I think, elevated was something that I was told when I was younger. But during the pandemic, I had already reached what I wanted to with the goal of social media, which was to do seminars and travel the nation. And so I was doing 50 cities a year, right? Awesome, loving it, teaching tax. And it had said in January of 2020, hey, I'm done with social media, right? And it wasn't even a great success on social media compared to what you could say it is now. But when the pandemic hit, being a CPA, working with clients, there was a program called PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. That was there for businesses.
It was confusing as can be for a lot of businesses, and churches included.
Yes. So in concern for my clients, I stayed up all night. I shot a bunch of videos and started texting my clients Sunday morning, and I said, listen, this is coming out Friday. It's going to run out Friday. I don't have time to work with every single one of you. So here's 10 videos, PPP1, PPP2, and I put them on YouTube. And I'd never done that for my clients before. Well, Sunday morning, the law wasn't even 2 hours old or so. I'm the first one, and I have 10,000 subscribers in a week. That's a million views. And through that, here's the point, is that when I'm getting recognized in Miami at the airport from a family from California, and the grandmother and the parents and the kids are running up and they're crying, it doesn't have one thing to do with JJ the CPA. They say, JJ, you saved our business. You led it. And so for a year and a half, my wife and I, we went live every day for 4 or 5 hours. We didn't charge anything. Other groups were charging all kinds of money to help and using it, not necessarily inappropriately, but definitely taking advantage of it. But it was through that, helping people, being interested and listening, that's where the Lord said, see, when you finally put yourself aside, JJ, right? Now then I'll use you as a vehicle, right? And then I'll use you as a vehicle. And that's what's humbling is anything. And so just going to say one other thing. Last May 23, I told my wife, I was like, I think I shot my last YouTube video. You know what I mean? Like, I've done everything. We've done it. I've made
what else is there to talk about?
Off all this stuff. It's like, I'm good, Then a month later, boom, an international partner calls. They're like, we want you to do this. And another international partner. And I'm like, well, and that's the Lord going, listen, I'll tell you when you're done. All right?
Exactly.
I'm going to let you know when you're done. So that's when you then have to turn yourself over.
Absolutely. And that even takes that legacy farther when you've got this business in Miami, this business in California, this business in New York, wherever, that the legacy of their company, their family business didn't end, and how your legacy then branched out. That's awesome. I love that.
Well, I'm thankful for it.
Can you leave a bad legacy?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, how do we do that? I mean, as Christian men, how do we leave a bad legacy?
Well, I think especially when we're talking about kids, I think sometimes we can be the bad example. You know, we can be the bad influence and teach them things that aren't serving them, you know, serving them well, or, you know, we neglect to teach them, you know, the things that, you know, they need and you know, want to see. And sometimes that's difficult. Even bad legacies in, you know, non-family relationships. You know, I think in some ways it's easier to do that. I think if we stay in neutral, you know, so to speak, I think it's easy for us to leave a bad legacy because we're just doing our thing, and I don't really care what you get out of this. It's, you know, I think we have to be somewhat intentional to leave a good legacy.
Well, I think that's the key word of this whole episode is intentionality. Yeah, intentionality. Legacy isn't left without being intentional about it. I mean, you will leave a legacy, but it's probably going to be a bad one if you're not intentional about leaving a good one. That's good. That's good. Let's look at a scripture that I think applies to this. And on the surface, a lot of people probably go, I don't see how that connects, but it's only one verse we're going to look at today. That verse comes from Proverbs 27, verse 17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And that seems to be a pretty simple verse. As iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. And I think just in the half hour we've been here talking about all the stuff that we've been talking about, I think we've been sharpened. I think each of us have sharpened each other really well. But when we talk legacy, this is what's required. You're not going to pass that legacy off to your son without sharpening him through those things that, hey, this is what I've learned, this is the good, this is the bad, don't make this mistake, you know, that's going to sharpen him. But I bet there's things that you've been sharpened by raising him. And that's father to son, but then it's also friendships. When this was written, and we're talking about David and Solomon, or David and not Solomon, man, I'm drawing a blank. Solomon was David's son. We're gonna have to cut some of this out.
No, we're leaving that in.
I did 4 years of Bible at ACU. Wow.
Oh my gosh, it was Saul's son. Jonathan. Golly, man, don't leave that in there. But this is David and Jonathan, who was his close friend that even went head to head with his own dad for David. You know, this is that idea of two men who care enough about each other that, you know, that iron sharpening iron is not a comfortable thing. I mean, it throws sparks. It's a rough thing, but that blade is not going to be sharp without it. That blade's going to be dull. That sword's not going to serve its purpose without it. And to leave a legacy, we need people in our lives that are willing to be that iron on iron to make us who we are. And I think this is where it comes into play in the Cigar Lounge. We're around men of all different shapes and colors and positions and you know, influence in the community and all that. And if the Cigar Lounge is just a place you go to relax, which is fine, that's one thing. But if you go to the Cigar Lounge and it's a place where you know I'm going to be challenged by men who care about me, I'm going to be challenged and strengthened by those around me to be better in the CPA world, as a pastor, you know, computer programmer, as, you know, a trash man, whatever you come in and you're challenged to be better, that's when the Cigar Lounge is elevated and becomes a place that makes men better men. I think that's what we should be striving for. What are your thoughts on it?
I wrote this down. I'll make sure I get it right. Mental sharpness comes from being around people who sharpen us. It's good to be around other people who can challenge you and stimulate your thought. I think JJ's definitely done that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to add, you know, you were talking about can you leave a bad legacy?
Yeah.
And there's ways you can take somebody else's bad legacy and go, well, I don't want my legacy to be that. And I am thankful to say that with my stepfather and my mom made amends and forgiveness and changed things in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of healing and forgiving on all sides, and so good and thankful for that. But we can also use it as, you know, we might be going up against somebody that is, for lack of a better word, evil.
Yeah.
You know, in that way. But I think when I read that and when I first read it, you know, whatever age it was, well, I need to be as strong as I can be. So that when someone needs to sharpen up against me, then they can. So it's what's interesting. I was reading it this morning again, and then I was like, well, what other people say about this person?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that can say it's a negative, and it's about controversy. And I just look at it as be as strong as you can for your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that when they need to sharpen across your face, as it indicates, right, that they're able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, and then also the company you keep, right?
Yeah.
So if you're around other people that you can sharpen up against, then I think it's key.
Yeah, and that old saying that if you want to know who you're going to be in 5 years, look at the people around you today.
Yeah.
And that's you're going to be like them because you're sharpening who you are and your character on them. And you bring a really good point too. A lot of people see this as a negative thing, and iron hitting other iron, and when it's done negatively, it doesn't sharpen the blade; it chips the blade. It dings the blade and creates another spot that needs to be sharpened out. And so there's this beautiful image. And what I love about it, it doesn't necessarily, it's not a gospel thing, but we see this in Jesus and his disciples. When he's got these 12 men of all different backgrounds together, you don't think that Matthew, the tax collector, who was a traitor to his people, and Simon the Zealot didn't rub, on each other a little bit and have to sharpen each other, and each one of them have to go, okay, why did God choose Matthew to be a disciple? And Matthew's over there going, why did he choose a zealot over there to be a disciple? And having to learn and grow and become sharper in what they believe because of those relationships. And that's what I love about Cigar Lounge is you can sit across from somebody who's got totally different beliefs than you, totally different opinions than you. And not that they're going to change your beliefs, but they're going to sharpen you in why you believe what you believe and why you take a stand.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what Cigar Church is all about.
It is.
It's what you're doing right here. Yeah,
absolutely.
Even for those that are just tuning in.
Yeah.
That's why you guys are, I'm telling you, you guys are like, I want to get on the coattails of
Come on, man.
Cigar Church.
Hey,
you're going to the...
We got plans for you.
I love it. But
I just want to get on the JJ The CPA coattail. I mean, that's a good looking coat. I mean, that's what we're...
But really, you guys are, I just really, when I watch the episodes and, men and women, I think it's like I said in the very beginning, you make people pause to go, wait a second, what? Cigar Church, and looking at that, and I'm sure you're going to come across, and probably already have, controversy.
Oh, absolutely.
Those that I would say are the Pharisees, for lack of a better word, if I just put it straight out that way, which is great. Right?
I love it.
Because it's all about, discourse on social media is what causes it. So I just say you guys stay the course.
How about we got heresy?
Yeah, we've been called heretics already. So that's fine. But it's, I've been
so was Jesus, right?
And absolutely. I've been a pastor 22 years now, and these guys are just stepping out into, whether they want to know it or not, they're in pastoral roles doing this. And I've been called every name under the sun that you can possibly be called, and it's, for me, it doesn't bother me. I'll go home and cry about it later. But
sure,
what do we do about this? We got called heretics. What? Right. And I'm like, just let it go. I mean, people are always going to butt up against what we're doing.
Yeah.
But the point isn't. I mean, if you're secure in your faith, and you have a problem with us smoking a cigar, having a beer, having some whiskey with us or whatever, that's fine. If that's a conviction you have, we don't want to challenge. I mean, if God's laid on your heart to stay away from it.
Yeah.
But we recognize that there is a group of people out there that absolutely love the environment of the Cigar Lounge, absolutely love smoking a cigar, the community that comes with it. And we believe that Jesus belongs in that place too. And the fact is, and we say this at our church on Sunday mornings all the time, we can never go somewhere that Jesus isn't already there. And you will never see somebody, you'll never lay eyes on somebody that Jesus doesn't love. And so coming into a bar or a cigar lounge, God's already there. I mean, it's not like you're taking Jesus with you. God's already there. You're just going to be a part of what he's already doing. And everybody there is somebody that God loves and wants you to love. Absolutely. And I mean, what better way than to take something we're passionate about and say, you know what, we're going to put some Jesus in there too.
Absolutely. When, just further encouragement to you guys. I mean, without the Pharisees, without the crucifixion, without the whippings and the crown of thorns placed on Jesus' head, without him having to drag the cross and have the nails put into his hands and into his feet, and being poked with the spear, and we would probably not know Jesus today at all, right? It took that to rise up. If he was all about love, which is what he was, right? We may have not known his story. We may have known of someone that was just wonderful and positive and made a big impact on people's lives, but it was that. And so they had a role. And with that being said, don't worry about
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you carry your own cross
Absolutely.
and put a crown of thorns on you, because that is what we're called to do, right? Be Christ-like, and Christ-like isn't all about
take up our cross
being clean every day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So tell us where we can find you on social media.
We're very
so anybody that's watching this wants to find out where JJ's at, hear more of his story, and see more of his legacy and what he's doing with the succession to his son. Tell us where to find you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Well, the first thing is, for anybody coming from the JJ the CPA community, I appreciate you tuning in, listening, getting to here. You're probably like, wow, we didn't know this about JJ, and hope you appreciate, for lack of a better word, when I say I'm taking a risk and getting out here, in the sense that I want you to respect it is what I want you to do. Because one of the things I want you to know is that I've always respected you, no matter what walk you come from, no matter who you go to bed with, who you wake up with, how you live your life. I've always been accepting of you, encouraging, loving. So what I want you to do is be encouraging and loving here, even if you don't agree with this, even if it challenges you, even if you feel as though somehow you're now not for JJ the CPA. I want you to look at your own life to go, well, why is that? Because I'm accepting of you the way they're accepting of you. I could care less if this has any impact in you changing your views. What I care and appreciate and love about you is that you just listened. So you can find me anywhere, JJ the CPA, hashtag JJ the CPA on the platform. You'll find me everywhere. It is JJ the CPA. And with that, on my channel, I'm taking some other risks, and we're not getting a lot of views on our new content, right? But I really feel strongly with some of the new messaging, and the other thing that's really taken off on my channel is the weight loss. So for those of you that are and that don't know JJ the CPA for tax, what you know is this guy lost 117 pounds, sharing his story. Just know this is just part of the story of JJ the CPA. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And thank you for your word there. I mean, that's one thing that we've always wanted to let people know is that, yes, we know that Jesus is a man of love. That John 1:14, my favorite text, is that the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us, moved into the neighborhood, but he came full of grace and full of truth. And yes, a lot of churches, a lot of Christians want to stand on that truth right now, and that's good. But also, don't forget that grace. And don't forget that Jesus was a man who accepted and loved every single person around him. And that's who we want to be. And thank you for sharing that. And just know that there are faithful followers of Jesus that care about you where you are, exactly the way you are right now, no strings attached. And we want you to know that your Creator loves you and cares about you and wants what's best for you. And that's at the heart of why we've done this. And thank you for pointing that out. And it in no way is a reflection of whether we accept you or, I mean, we care for every single person that we come across. And as we say, like I said a second ago, there's not a person we lay eyes on that Jesus doesn't love. And that's very important for us as well. So go check out JJ's stuff. Go subscribe to it. Get him over 100,000 people, man. We got to get that subscription up there.
Absolutely.
And get us over 200. 3,000. 200 subscribers. So that's what we're hoping for right now. So these have been amazing cigars.
Absolutely. Thank you for the
yeah, absolutely. I hope you enjoyed that. And we want you to leave a legacy, whatever that means to you, and leave a positive legacy in your community, in your cigar lounge, in your church, in your home, in your business, whatever it is. Be intentional about making changes so that when you're dead and gone, not that your name's remembered, but the things that you value are remembered and passed on so that others can grow and stand on your shoulders and take what you've done and what you've experienced and become better and change this world around us. That's at the heart of it, right? Dan, what do you got for us, brother?
Hey, as we said just a minute ago, subscribe if you like what you see. Subscribe and
share
tickle the little bell icon.
Tickle the bell
to be notified when new videos drop, and we're dropping them.
Hey, JJ, can you help us find something for him to say that's not tickle the bell? Every time I just feel a little like inside of me, I'm like, I get what he's saying, but it's weird.
Yeah, turn on your notifications.
Hammer that bell. I don't know, something.
Beat that bell off.
We don't tickle nothing around here. Very good, very good.
As a reminder, if you got any prayer requests, just leave them in the comments. We want to pray for you.
Absolutely.
And we do.
We do, and we will actually, the three of us have texted back and forth when we see some of those comments. Hey, did you see this? Make sure you're praying for them. And it may not be immediately, but within a couple of days, we usually reach back out to you and just say, hey, we've been praying for you. Let us know if there's anything you need. That is at the core of this as well. We want to interact with you with your needs and help you connect with God. And so we'll do that for you. As always, Smoke a Fine Cigar to the glory of God. We'll see you next week.